Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Chicago, a sunny morning, but fraught with invisible tensions. Marcus Johnson, the charismatic CEO and founder of the clothing chain MJ Elegance, strolled casually through the brand-new lobby of his latest store. He wore a tailored suit, his CEO badge proudly pinned to his jacket, and his phone was already buzzing with notifications from the day before: happy customers, enthusiastic investors. But that day, Marcus would discover that success and respect were not always enough to protect against subtle hatred and overt discrimination. As soon as he walked through the door, Richard Thompson, the store manager, a man in his 50s with a cold smile, stared at him with immediate hostility. Marcus's eyes met Richard's, and he read incredulity mixed with contempt. "Excuse me, sir, but you have to go out, you are not allowed here." The tone was dry, sharp, almost comical in its stiffness. Marcus, surprised, replied calmly, "I'm the CEO of this store. I believe I have the right to." But before he could finish, Richard signaled for the employees to escort him out. The customers in the store, some already loyal to the brand, stared open-mouthed. Marcus felt ashamed, not for himself, but for the place he had built with the sweat of his brow. His heart pounded, but he remained motionless, aware that he was being filmed by customers' cell phones. The seconds stretched like hours. The video of this racist expulsion would soon be all over social media. Marcus knew this humiliation could become a catalyst: either he let himself be crushed, or he could turn this injustice into a resounding victory. He chose the latter. At the same time, Richard, unaware of the shockwave he had just unleashed, turned back to his desk with a satisfied smile, convinced that he had maintained order. Little did he know that his name would soon disappear from the company's records, and that the whole world would take sides against his behavior. Thus began an episode that would go beyond mere humiliation. It was the story of a black man, CEO of his own empire, evicted from his store, who would transform this injustice into a resounding triumph of justice and dignity. Marcus Johnson wasn't born with a silver spoon. Born and raised on Chicago's South Side, he grew up surrounded by economic hardship, noisy streets, and dreams often crushed by reality. From a young age, he understood that the only way to change his destiny would be to work harder than anyone around him. At school, Marcus excelled in math and business. He spent his evenings reading business books and observing local entrepreneurs. At 18, he won a scholarship to the University of Chicago, where he studied management and marketing. After graduation, he worked at several retail companies, but soon realized he wanted more: to create something that would bear his name and vision. This is how he founded MJ Elegance, a clothing brand that combined quality, style, and affordability. Success didn't come overnight. The first few years were a daily struggle, finding investors, convincing suppliers, and attracting customers. But Marcus never backed down from obstacles. His natural charisma, clear vision, and determination attracted loyal customers and talented collaborators. A few years later, MJ Elegance had several stores in Chicago, each embodying sophistication and professionalism. Marcus was respected, admired, and despite his success, he remained deeply connected to his community. He regularly held workshops for young black entrepreneurs, sharing his knowledge and experience to inspire the next generation. But despite this resounding success, Marcus knew the road ahead would be fraught with challenges. The corporate world, especially in affluent neighborhoods, could be ruthless and sometimes tinged with racism. He had never let these prejudices get to him, but he knew that one day he might have to face the hatred head-on. That day, he thought, might come. And that day would come sooner than he could have imagined, in the place he had built with his own hands, a place that would become the scene of unacceptable humiliation. The new MJ Elegance store had just opened in an upscale Chicago neighborhood. The windows were sparkling, the mannequins were wearing Marcus's latest designs, and customers were pouring in from the opening. Marcus, true to form, decided to visit the store incognito that morning. He wanted to see firsthand how the team operated and make sure everything was going according to plan. As he walked through the door, he greeted a few customers with a discreet smile. But he hadn't anticipated that Richard Thompson, the store manager, had already spotted him. Richard, a man in his 50s with a cold, contemptuous gaze, immediately sensed Marcus's presence. In his mind, he saw a stranger trying to clean things up, when Marcus was actually the CEO. "Excuse me, sir. You can't be here. You have to leave," Richard ordered sharply, without even raising his voice. Marcus blinked in disbelief. I'm the CEO of MJ Elegance. I think I should be allowed to." But Richard interrupted him, raising his voice this time. "I'm not arguing. Get out. Now." Customers turned around, shocked by the scene. Some began filming with their phones. Marcus, calm despite the anger boiling inside him, raised his hands to show he wasn't looking for a fight. But Richard, blinded by his prejudices, signaled 2 employees to take care of him. Marcus felt his heart sink. His own store, his dream, his success, was becoming a theater of racism and humiliation. Each step he took toward the exit seemed heavier than the last. Customers murmured among themselves, some shocked, others worried. As he was almost to the door, Marcus turned to Richard, his voice calm but firm. "You don't know who you're dealing with, Richard. This isn't over." The employees hesitated and didn't know what to do. Marcus was finally escorted out, while Richard returned behind his counter with a satisfied smile. He thought he had maintained order, but little did he know that his actions would spark a media storm and lead to his own downfall. Once outside, Marcus took a deep breath, trying to calm the anger and frustration that were overwhelming him. Passers-by stared at him in astonishment. Some murmured, others stared at their phones, captivated by the scene they had just filmed. Within minutes, videos of the racist eviction began circulating on social media. Marcus knew he had to stay calm. He wasn't one to react on impulse. He'd built his empire on patience, strategy, and intelligence. But the pain of this public humiliation was real. His own store, a symbol of his success and perseverance, had become a theater of racism for the entire world to see. The notifications on his phone exploded, messages of support, calls from friends, outraged comments. Loyal customers expressed their anger, promising to boycott the store as long as Richard Thompson remained in office. The video had already gone viral, shared by thousands of people, and each share amplified the collective outrage. Marcus made an immediate decision: he would not let this situation go unnoticed. He contacted his communications team and requested that an official statement be prepared. In it, he calmly but firmly denounced the incident, reiterating MJ Elegance's values: respect, equality, and inclusion. Meanwhile, Richard Thompson sat behind his counter, unaware of the shockwaves he had just caused. He believed he had done the right thing, but Marcus knew the world would not view this expulsion as a simple misunderstanding. Every detail of the incident was documented, and the footage left no room for doubt. A black CEO had been humiliated in his own store, and the responsibility for this injustice rested entirely on Richard. Marcus's anger turned to determination. He knew this moment of humiliation could become a catalyst for even greater change. Instead of letting it crush him, he would use this ordeal to show the world that dignity, justice, and perseverance always triumph over hatred. As soon as he entered his office, Marcus Johnson locked the door behind him and took a deep breath. The eviction scene continued to play over and over in his head, but he knew he had to act intelligently rather than angrily. He picked up his phone and immediately called MJ Elegance headquarters. The secretary, surprised by the urgent call from the CEO himself, quickly transferred the call to the board of directors. The voices of the executives followed one another, a mixture of concern and surprise. "Ladies and gentlemen, I have just been evicted from my own store by Richard Thompson." "Yes, you heard that right, evicted. I need you to look into this situation immediately." Marcus then sent the videos that were already circulating on social media. Each image clearly showed Richard ordering his employees to throw him out, and the racist behavior was evident. The shocked board members realized that the incident could not go unpunished. At the same time, Marcus drafted an official statement for the media. He knew the words had to be precise, powerful, and accurate. He calmly denounced Richard's behavior, reiterated the company's core values, and affirmed its total commitment to fighting racism and discrimination. Every sentence was thoughtful, every word carrying his authority and dignity. The communications team sent the press release to local and national media outlets. Within an hour, the story was making headlines on social media and in newspapers. A black CEO humiliated in his own store, confronted by a racist manager. Comments poured in, outrage, support for Marcus, and calls for Richard's immediate dismissal. Marcus, though wounded, sensed that the storm was turning into an opportunity. This was no longer just a matter of personal revenge, but an opportunity to show the world that justice and respect can triumph over racism. He prepared for a strategic confrontation, aware that every move would be scrutinized by his employees, his customers, and the public. The battle had just begun, but Marcus knew he had the advantage. Truth and dignity were on his side. The next morning, Marcus arrived at MJ Elegance headquarters with a determined calm. The incident at the store was no longer just a news story, it had set off a chain reaction within the company. Employees, shocked by Richard's behavior, had begun writing letters of support and sharing their stories. Jessica Miller, a sales manager at another store, sent a poignant email to the board. "Mr. Johnson, I have witnessed your commitment to your employees and customers for years. Richard Thompson in no way reflects the values you embody. We fully support you." Other employees revealed that Richard had discriminated against him on several occasions, but that no one had dared to speak out before. These testimonies formed a strong case against him, making it impossible for the council to turn a blind eye. Meanwhile, Marcus met with the managers of the affected store. He reassured them that the situation would be rectified, and that their courage and loyalty would be recognized. His speech was both firm and inspiring. "We will never tolerate any of us being humiliated because of the color of our skin. We must remain united, because together we make MJ Elegance strong." Customers, too, began to mobilize. Some promised to boycott the store if Richard remained in office, while others shared their own experiences of racism in the store. Social pressure was mounting, and the board felt the matter threatened to seriously damage the company's reputation. Marcus, observing the growing support around him, knew that the situation could be transformed into a moral victory. The humiliation he had suffered would become a catalyst for real and lasting change, not only for him, but for all the employees and customers who had witnessed or experienced discrimination. Thus, the incident that had begun as a humiliating expulsion gradually transformed into a movement of solidarity and justice, putting Richard Thompson at the center of a storm from which he would not emerge unscathed. Within hours of the videos being released, social media was abuzz. The hashtag Justice for Marcus began trending on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Thousands of people shared footage of the eviction, along with messages of support, outrage, and anger. Local and national celebrities took a stand. R&B singer Alicia Keys shared the video with a message. "Humiliating someone for their skin color is unacceptable. Full support for Marcus Johnson. #Stop Racism." Fashion and retail influencers encouraged their followers to boycott the store while Richard Thompson remained in office. Local and national media picked up the story, turning an isolated incident into a national scandal. Marcus, in his office, watched the public's reaction with a mixture of relief and determination. Every share, every comment, every article strengthened his position. He knew that media visibility was a powerful tool. From now on, Richard's behavior could no longer be ignored. Loyal customers began calling headquarters, expressing their support for Marcus and their outrage at Richard. Letters also poured in, some containing personal accounts of racism and discrimination, others praising Marcus's leadership and integrity. Richard, meanwhile, was beginning to feel the pressure. His phone was buzzing with messages from shocked superiors and employees. The confidence he once believed in his authority was quickly disappearing. His clumsy excuses and justifications were falling on deaf ears. Amid the turmoil, Marcus remained focused. He knew that public anger could be strategically channeled to achieve justice. The media storm was now his ally. Every message, every video shared by thousands of people, brought Richard Thompson's inevitable fall closer. Thus, the humiliation suffered by Marcus became a collective phenomenon. The whole of society observed, judged, and demanded reparation. Marcus knew that the moment of the final confrontation was approaching, and this time, he would no longer be alone. A few days after the incident, Marcus Johnson decided it was time to take back control. Accompanied by his lawyer and 2 key board members, he went to the store where Richard Thompson had orchestrated his eviction. The air was thick with tension, and the customers passing by seemed to feel the weight of the story. Richard, behind the counter, looked up as Marcus entered. A mixture of surprise and concern crossed his face. He had thought the matter would blow over quickly, but reality had just caught up with him. Marcus advanced calmly, each step measured, each movement imbued with confidence. "Richard, we need to talk," Marcus said, his voice firm but controlled. It wasn't what you think," Richard stammered, unable to find his words. Marcus placed the videos, employee testimonials, and the flood of messages from customers and celebrities in front of him. "Look closely. This behavior is unacceptable. It's not just a misjudgment, it's pure racism. And it will not go unpunished." Richard tried to justify himself, claiming that Marcus had misinterpreted the situation, that the employees had simply followed his instructions. But Marcus, impassive, cut through each excuse with surgical precision. "Every action, every word is recorded. The evidence is clear. Your attitude goes against everything MJ Elegance stands for." The employees present, who had long hesitated to speak out, felt encouraged. Some testified directly to Richard, recounting the discriminatory behavior they had observed. The manager, cornered, realized that his position was now untenable. Marcus concludes. "Richard, your time here is up. You will be dismissed immediately. I hope you reflect on your actions, but know that justice and dignity always prevail." Richard left the store a few minutes later, watched by everyone, humiliated and defeated. Marcus, meanwhile, remained inside for a few moments, breathing deeply. He had just transformed a moment of personal humiliation into a strategic and moral victory. The message was clear to all employees and customers: MJ Elegance would never tolerate discrimination, and those who attempted to impose it would face the consequences. Marcus had just proven that dignity and justice are never negotiable. The next morning, MJ Elegance's board of directors officially announced Richard Thompson's dismissal. The news was published simultaneously on the company's official website, social media, and emailed to all employees. The statement was clear, precise, and firm. Following unacceptable and discriminatory behavior, Richard Thompson is no longer employed at MJ Elegance. We apologize to Mr. Marcus Johnson and our customers for this incident and reaffirm our commitment to equality, respect, and diversity in all our stores. Marcus Johnson then spoke in a video posted on social media. He addressed customers, employees, and the public directly, calmly and authoritatively. "What happened should never happen in any business, let alone in a place I created with my own hands. At MJ Elegance, we believe that respect and equality are fundamental values. I want everyone to know that we will never turn a blind eye to discrimination." The response was swift. Employees sent messages of thanks and support, saying Marcus's decision had restored their confidence and pride. Loyal customers, as well as many newcomers, celebrated the CEO's courage and determination. Richard, meanwhile, was now isolated. His name was gradually disappearing from records and internal communications. His clumsy and belated apologies were no longer enough to repair the damage. His professional reputation was compromised. Marcus, observing the situation, felt a mixture of satisfaction and responsibility. The victory was not only personal, it carried a powerful message for all those who might one day face injustice and discrimination. He had shown that dignity and justice can triumph, even in the face of heinous and humiliating acts. Thus, the entire company found its balance again, but this time with a renewed determination, to make MJ Elegance a symbol of respect, inclusion and success, where every employee and every customer is treated with dignity. After Richard Thompson's dismissal, Marcus Johnson didn't just celebrate his victory, he knew the incident had left scars, both for his employees and for his company's reputation. So he decided to turn this crisis into a real opportunity for strengthening and improvement. Marcus held a general meeting with all the employees. He spoke frankly and emotionally. What happened is unacceptable. But we can learn from this experience. We will strengthen our values, improve our training, and ensure that every employee feels respected and supported. He then launched a program of formation anti-discrimination mandatory for all managers and directors, in order to prevent any form of racism or harassment in the company. Workshops on diversity and inclusion were set up, with specialist speakers and testimonies from experts and clients. At the same time, Marcus met with each affected store employee individually. He listened to them, gathered their experiences, and asked for suggestions for improving the work environment. The employees, touched by his sincere listening, regained confidence and motivation. On the marketing front, Marcus also turned the incident into a positive symbol. The Respect and Excellence campaign was launched, highlighting MJ Elegance's history as a company committed to fighting discrimination and promoting social justice. Customers and the community enthusiastically embraced this initiative, strengthening the company's reputation. A few weeks later, the store where the incident occurred shone once again, but this time with an atmosphere reinforced by respect, unity, and collective vigilance. Marcus, proud but humble, knew he had transformed a moment of humiliation into a symbol of resilience and enlightened leadership. This rebuilding wasn't just about the company, it affected the entire community around MJ Elegance, sending a clear message: in the face of injustice, it is possible to rise up stronger and create lasting positive change. A few months after the incident, MJ Elegance had become much more than just a chain store, it was a symbol of justice, dignity, and resilience. Marcus Johnson had transformed the humiliation he had suffered into a lesson for all those who believed that discrimination could go unpunished. The store where Richard Thompson had expelled him now shone with a positive and inclusive atmosphere. Employees worked with pride and motivation, some even saying that the incident had strengthened their sense of belonging to the company. Customers, meanwhile, flocked to the store, attracted by Marcus's ethics and commitment, much more than by the fashion itself. Marcus was invited to speak at conferences on leadership and inclusion in retail. Everywhere he went, he shared his story with honesty and courage, how he had been humiliated in his own store, but chose to respond with strategy and dignity rather than anger. His message resonated deeply, inspiring entrepreneurs, employees, and young leaders to fight injustice and stand up for their values.